They did it, the Maniacs! Marvel finally cast John Krasinski as Reed Richards. And 5 minutes later, they shredded him into frickin' spaghetti. The Illuminati scene was one of the highlights of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, a fan-pleasing iceberg of which Krasinski was just the tip.
Ideally, I'd prefer a different scenario.
But what other details caught our third eye? Let's dive in.
I'll get you sorted out, sir.
Thank you. Right this way.
So there were plenty of rumors about Krasinski, and it felt almost inevitable that he would show up eventually. Now, what did not feel inevitable was Anson Mount returning as Black Bolt, the character he played in the short-lived Inhumans TV show. The show's basically been completely memory-holed from Marvel continuity, and few have mourned its passing.
You guys are always so mean to me!
Which is why it was such a delight to see Blackagar Boltagon sitting up there with the Illuminati, wearing his fully comics-accurate costume. He even had the little tuning fork on his helmet.
Jeez, you're easy to impress.
Of course, if you'd seen any trailers or read anything about Doctor Strange in the run-up to its release, you already knew that Patrick Stewart would be reprising his role as Professor Charles Xavier. Now, it's clear that this wasn't the version of Professor X from the Fox cinematic continuity. He entered the scene in his classic yellow hovering chair, which many will remember from both the comics and the 90s animated series.
I love that sort of thing.
And his entrance was accompanied by a quick blast of music. Not, as you might have expected, the X-Men movie theme composed by Michael Kamen, but the theme from the aforementioned animated series, which for a whole generation of X-Men fans served as their introduction to those characters. Now, anyone who saw Marvel's What If will have been jazzed to see Hayley Atwell show up as a live-action Captain Carter, complete with vibranium shield. But it wasn't just the shield and the super soldier serum that made her a worthy first Avenger. She lasted a hell of a lot longer against Wanda than she had any right to. That is pure tenacity. Seeing Lashana Lynch's Maria Rambeau as Captain Marvel was a quietly satisfying surprise. We last saw Lynch in Captain Marvel playing Carol Danvers' best friend and co-pilot. The character has never served as Captain Marvel in the comics, though her daughter Monica, last seen in WandaVision, has pulled superhero duty as both Captain Marvel and Photon, and will likely play a big role in the MCU going forward. And it also looked like she was wearing a variation of the Kree battlesuit that Brie Larson wore in Captain Marvel, suggesting a similar origin. And then she got crushed by a statue. Now, before Mr. Fantastic even showed up in the movie, eagle-eyed, or more accurately eagle-eared fans would have already been primed for his appearance. When Doctor Strange first speaks to the Earth-838 version of Christine Palmer, she casually mentions that she works with the Baxter Foundation. Comics fans will of course know that the Baxter Foundation was a scientific research organization founded by Franklin Storm, father of Sue and Johnny Storm, aka Invisible Woman and the Human Torch. Its headquarters was the Baxter Building in New York, which also happened to be the headquarters of, yes, the Fantastic Four. Now, shortly before Reed Richards gets sliced and diced, he tries to appeal to Wanda's emotions, saying that as a parent, he understands what she's going through. Of course, it doesn't work and she spaghettifies him anyway. But Mr. Fantastic talking about fatherhood is kind of loaded if you know your Marvel lore. Reed has 2 kids in the comics, Franklin and Valeria Richards. Now, we're not sure if we'll ever see this particular dimension again, but if you wanted to create a pair of extremely powerful and angry supervillains, turning their dad into string cheese would be a good place to start. Now, there's one thing you can rely on Professor Charles Xavier for, apart from regularly losing control of powerful mutants. It's giving you a comforting, inspiring pep talk when you're feeling down. In Doctor Strange 2, the good professor tells Stephen Strange that just because someone stumbles and loses their way doesn't mean they are lost forever. Nice sentiment, and somewhat familiar? Because that is, in fact, the same thing that Charles told his younger self when they met in X-Men Days of Future Past. Sadly, nice sentiments and familiar platitudes were not enough to save Professor X this time. which might have been because he very rudely broke into her psyche and wandered around. That psychic space was full of traumatic imagery from Wanda's past. The door through which the professor first enters is clearly the Maximoff's front door, which you'll remember from the WandaVision flashback episode when we see their house get destroyed. And then there's the pile of rubble that possessed Wanda is buried under, clearly evoking the rubble of her bombed-out childhood home. Plus, the little TV showing clips from WandaVision. Geez, Professor, you might as well have read her journal. Of course, the Illuminati are important people with duties. They're not going to be doing grunt work, escorting people from room to room. And in this universe, we were delighted to see that those duties fell to Ultron bots. Now, we can't help but wonder what the story is here, though. There is conspicuously no Tony Stark in this universe and no mention of him. But surely there needed to be a Stark for there to be an Ultron. Was this dimension's Age of Ultron a genuine Age of Ultron rather than a week of Ultron? We'll probably never know, but it's fun to speculate. Now, we've discussed the slight confusion around designating the MCU Earth 616 in a previous video. It doesn't exactly line up with the previously understood relationship between Marvel's comics continuity and its cinematic continuity. And the whole Mysterio con from Spider-Man Far From Home muddies the waters even further. But we are happy to clarify one thing. Earth 838 has never appeared in any Marvel comics, shows, or movies before Doctor Strange 2. That is a new designation. It doesn't contradict anything. It doesn't throw any wrenches in any works anywhere. Well, we don't think. There is one thing that's been bugging us about the Illuminati scene. It's the conspicuously empty chair in their chamber. Who was supposed to be sitting in that chair? Screenwriter Michael Waldron has been strangely cagey about it, calling it an unanswerable question and something that they discussed a lot. So, what gives? Who was meant to sit there? Going by the Ultron bots, we have to wonder if maybe there was going to be a version of Tony Stark. Was RDJ busy? Did the top secret negotiations with Tom Cruise break down at the 11th hour? There are other candidates from the comics, of course, like Namor the Sub-Mariner. Maybe Marvel felt that including a brand new, very important character like Namor was too much heavy lifting for one small scene. Or heck, maybe it was supposed to be Peter Porker, aka Spider-Ham.
I just washed my hands, that's why they're wet.
Why not? Everything happens for a reason in the MCU. Which is why, when characters in Doctor Strange 2 started referring to multiversal travel as incursions, our spider senses started tingling. Scholars of the comics will understand the significance. The word incursion is likely a reference to the dimensional collisions that formed a major part of the Secret Wars storyline, where an alien entity called the Beyonder transported various Marvel heroes and villains to another planet and made them compete in a kind of cosmic Tekken tag tournament. Fans have already speculated that the MCU is building up to Secret Wars, and it feels like the use of the word incursions is more than just a gag for the geeks. Now, this is just a cute little touch, but it's something we enjoyed. Outside of Illuminati HQ, as part of what you might call their propaganda efforts to keep the populace in line, there's a big statue of Doctor Strange. And the base of the statue bears the legend, Earth's Mightiest Hero. Now, you may recall hearing that line somewhere before. Now, the first time we saw Doctor Strange and America Chavez flying through parallel universes, we knew that it would be one of those scenes that would need endless freeze framing in the future. Obviously, we can't do that yet, so we've just been to see the movie a bunch of times. So what did we see? Well, we're pretty sure we noticed the Living Tribunal, an ancient cosmic being that safeguards the multiverse and previously appeared in a blink-and-you'll-miss-it shot in the Loki streaming show. We also noticed dimensions that might have been the homes of Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Man 2099, and a dinosaur that we're 99% sure was stomping around the Savage Land. Oh, and for fans of Sam Raimi's work, he's a pretty good director, you should look up his other stuff. We noticed a taxi that bore an ad for Grindhouse Releasing. That is the production company that put out Raimi's iconic Evil Dead trilogy. Of course, no video about a Sam Raimi movie would be complete if we didn't ask the question, where the heck is Bruce Campbell? Now, for those of you who don't know who Bruce Campbell is, We have nothing to say to you, frankly. Educate yourselves.
You have to understand me.
myself out of here.
Earth's mightiest Chin, the hero of Evil Dead, has made cameo appearances in most of Sam Raimi's movies, and we were very pleased to see him show up as Pizza Papa in Doctor Strange 2, performing some of the hilarious and painful physical comedy that made him a cult icon.
Basically.
You may also remember him from such movies as Spider-Man, and Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3.
Come get some.
Speaking of things Sam Raimi likes to put in his movies, did you spot his famous car, the Oldsmobile Delta 88? It was in the Broken Universe, where Good Strange fights Evil Strange, floating in the air near the beginning of the scene. And that's the full Raimi bingo card. Hail to the king, baby!